Ladies and gentlemen, 4.1 is right around the corner, and we've covered Novelet. Now to get into my boy Wriothesley. First thing we need to establish is that Wriothesley is a Cryo Catalyst normal and charge attack main DPS, something akin to the Wanderer, just on the ground. Taking a look at the core of his kit, it's going to be between his elemental skill and his normal attack chain. Simply put, his elemental skill will enhance his normal attack chain similar to the Wanderer. After pressing his skill, you'll enter the chilling penalty state, which essentially makes you less interruptible to attacks, so interruption resistance, and your normal attacks get enhanced, increased damage, and then for every normal attack, you will lose a certain amount of HP. This is that similar Fontaine mechanic that we've seen. Increase or decrease of HP has a certain effect, only while above 50%. And obviously you get a decent amount of normal attack damage bonus. And that is the core and the main focus of Wriothesley's kit. He's essentially the Wanderer, but just on the ground. Wriothesley's normal attack chain can be interrupted with a sprint, and it won't cancel the combo, so you'll be able to do a kind of continuous combo attack chain and make it look very cool and epic, and be a very, role play if you want. But that is the core of his kit. As for his ultimate, this is just a hit of cryo damage. There's no gameplay here. You just press it when you have all of your buffs up, and you'll deal a bunch of damage, as it does 228.96% times 5 amount of damage, which is a lot of percentage of damage. So that's the core of his kit. Going on to his passive, the first passive, there shall be a plea for justice. When Wriothesley is below 60% HP, you will gain the Gracious Rebuke effect. Then your next charge attack is essentially a mega charge attack, dealing 50% increased damage and also restoring equal to 30% of Wriothesley's max HP. You can gain this effect once every 5 seconds. So simply put, below 60, you gain a massive charge attack that heals you up, making Wriothesley's gameplay a bit more cyclical, as he's kind of a one-man army, healing himself and taking his own HP away, which is very cool. Next, we've got There Shall Be a Reckoning for Sin. This one, simply put, when Wriothesley's HP increases or decreases, he gets a stacking attack percent increase by 6%, up to 5 stacks to a total of 30%. Which is very good. And then last passive, the Duke's Grace Weapon Essential Material, 10% chance to double the product, very fine. And simply put, Wriothesley's kit is actually very good. It's very synonymous and synchronous with itself. It works. He takes away his own HP by using his enhanced normal attacks, and then once he gets below 60, he can launch a mega charge attack that deals a bunch of damage and also will heal him back. So he's kind of like a one-man army, a very cyclical styled gameplay. And as I said, he's very similar to the Wanderer, where you just press his elemental skill, it puts you in a certain state, which is in this case the chilling penalty state, and then after that you just use your normal attacks till Timbuktu, and you'll get 1 billion damage very easily. He's a very simple character, there's not much depth to him, but he's going to be a very fun one, maybe, depends on if you like the gameplay. But for now, his kit's pretty good, but constellations make him far better, so let's look at those. Going on to his constellations, I'm going to try to summarize these as much as possible, as they are quite hefty in length. So his first constellation, Terror of the Evil Doers, is an enhancement to his first passive. So I'll put them up on the screen as a comparison. On the left is the old passive, on the right will be with C1, and essentially you get a boost to Constellation 2, Shackles for the Arrogant. When using his ultimate, each Prosecution Edict stack that you get from his second passive will increase the ability's damage by 40% to a total of 4 times 5, which is what, 160 or 200? Something around there. You'll be able to get a massive amount of damage bonus to his ultimate with this constellation. So it's a bit different from what we've just seen, normal charge attack gameplay through the other one. This one's ultimate damage. It's pretty good. Constellation 2, Shackles for the Arrogant. When using his ultimate, each Prosecution Edict stack that you get from his second passive will increase the ability's damage by 40% to a total of 4 times 5, which is what, 160 or 200? Something around there. You'll be able to get a massive amount of damage bonus to his ultimate. Constellation 4 again has a small change to the first passive, again increasing the heal that you get from that charge attack from 30% to 50%. And then the additional effect is when Wriothesley is overhealed, you can get one of 2 things. If Wriothesley is the character on field and he is overhealed, he himself will get a 20% attack speed increase. If Wriothesley is off field, then all party members get an attack speed increase of 10% for 6 seconds. These two methods cannot stack, they are independent. And that's a pretty good constellation, just an attack speed increase mainly. The heal is pretty cool, but you're mainly doing this for the attack speed. And then, lastly, C6, Esteem for the Innocent. This one's a big one. So crit rate of your Rebuke Vaulting Fist will be increased by 10%, and its crit damage by 80%, so your charge attack is dealing a lot of damage. And then, furthermore, when unleashed, you deal essentially another hit of the Rebuke Vaulting Fist base damage as cryo damage, so you get 2 charge attacks in one, just one of them is going to be base damage, and damage dealt this way is regarded as charge attack damage. Overall, a pretty good C6, crit rate and crit damage increase is always welcome, and you'll get a lot of damage out of this. Is it top 10? Probably not, but still a very good constellation. As for weapons, you're going to want, obviously, Wriothesley's signature weapon, which is Chaos Flow Supervision, which is going to be his best in slot crit rate substat with an incredible ability of increasing attack, and then when HP increases or decreases, your normal and charge attack damage increases by a certain percentage, maximum of 3 stacks. This effect can be triggered 0.3 seconds, and when the wielder has all 3 stacks, your attack speed increases by a further 8%. Overall, this is going to be his biggest bang for your buck weapon because it's his signature and it plays to his strong suits, but like we said, he is similar to Wanderer in gameplay, so the next suggestion is going to be the Wanderer's signature weapon, which is Tula Remembrance. It's kind of a long name, and this weapon may end up being better than Wriothesley's signature or worse just by a small percentage, mainly due to the crit damage substat on Wanderer's signature, because crit damage lets you get higher numbers, but crit rate lets you do more consistent, so it depends on what you have as your substats with your artifacts. But Tulia's Remembrance can be pretty good as normal attack speed increased by 10, and then also more normal and elemental skill damage increases further and further, with stacking percentages over 14 seconds. This one is also a very good contender, so if you have either or, they work just fine. But because these two are very specific weapons, we're also going to recommend a third 5-star, which is going to be just the Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds. It's just a nice classic choice, and because it's a crit rate substat, it's going to be the same effect as having his signature, so I'd recommend Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds if you have it as a substitute for the other 5-stars. You probably could try and run something like Kagura's Verity or one of the other ones, maybe the Geo one, not sure what its name is, but you could probably try running those ones. Would I recommend it? Not so much. But just go for whatever you have at hand. Any 5-star except the healing ones are pretty decent. As for 4-stars, Dodoko Tails, if you have it at Refinement 5, is the first one I'm going to recommend. Normal attacks hit on opponents increases charge attack damage, and vice versa, charge attack increases normal attack, or rather attack percentage. Overall, it's a very good weapon for these types of characters, so if you have it, use this one as it's also attack percentage on the substat. If you don't have Dodoko Tails, Ballad of the Boundless Blues will also work just fine. It's a similar styled weapon, but this time lower percentages and energy recharge as the substat, but it'll do the job just fine. After that, we've got another one, Flowing Purity. This one, it's attack percent substat and does a similar effect. It's one of the new Fontaine weapons, so you're going to have to get used to the effect, but using an elemental skill increases all elemental damage, and as he is a cryo catalyst character, you have constant cryo infusion, which is always good. And then furthermore, a bond worth a certain amount of percent HP will be increased. Once you heal that bond and overheal yourself, you get a further all elemental damage increase up to a maximum of 12%. So this is the next one I'm going to recommend, as it has a similar thing, and Wriothesley can trigger that overheal himself with just a charge attack. And then lastly, a classic that I like recommending, it's the Widsith. This one is always good crit damage substat with a 33% chance to get a random buff every time the character enters the field, either attack percentage, elemental damage, or elemental mastery. All of them worthy of getting on Wriothesley, as he's a cryo character, and you're probably going to be causing some sort of reaction with him. Now, you could use other weapons, the other crit rate weapons, but they are specifically battle pass weapons, or you could use some of the other crit damage weapons like the Blackcliff one. By all means, go for that, or any attack percentage stat stick. They will most likely work to some degree, but these are the ones that I've recommended because they probably will end up being the most bang for your buck in terms of damage and investment value. And as for artifacts, this is the simplest one. His best in slot is going to be Wriothesley Hunter, the very new Fontaine set, normal and charge attack plus 15 on the 2 set, and a massive crit rate increase to a total of 36 over 3 stacks when his HP increases or decreases on the 4 piece. It's going to be his best for the whole situation, as if you get a signature weapon of crit rate, you'll be able to get all your crit rate needed just with the 4 piece of this and the weapon, and then all your artifacts can go into crit damage. So Wriothesley Hunter is going to be his best in slot, but if you don't feel like farming that, or you don't have any good pieces in it just yet, then you can go all the way down this list and go to Shimenawa's Reminiscence. At least I believe this one is going to be one of his next best in slot, as it is 2-piece attack percent increase by 18, and then 4-piece when casting an elemental skill. If the character has 15 or more energy, you lose that 15 energy, and increase your normal charging and plunging attack damage by 50% for 10 seconds. This is just going to be a great one on him because that's all he does is normal and charging attack damage. And so increasing it by 50% for just 15 energy of an ultimate that you're barely going to be using for damage, it's pretty good. So those are the two I'm going to recommend, is Shimenawa's Reminiscence as well as Wriothesley Hunter. And lastly, we've got characters and team compositions. Now, Wriothesley only scales with attack percentage as his only thing, so you can practically use him with any combination of characters as supports. Bennett, Zhongli, probably all of the Anemo characters that you would use for Anemo shredding, Yelan, Jingcho, Toma, all of the above. Now, is there going to be a best in slot? Most likely, but I'm not the person to find that for you. All I will say is that you can use him with practically any character. The only element that I would not advise is going to be Dendro, as Dendro and Cryo don't really have a reaction worth the while, much like you don't run any Dendro and Cryo characters together as it is. I wouldn't recommend any with Wriothesley as he only has Cryo damage, so with that, you can run probably a good team is going to be Wriothesley, Bennett, Zhang Ling, and then some sort of Anemo character, and that will probably give you a pretty high amount of damage. But that's a very meta team, and do you want to run the meta? Well, that's up to you to decide. And that's Wriothesley. He's a pretty good character, and I have no doubt that he'll be extremely strong, as he has a lot of high numbers and a lot of high scaling, and if you get the certain builds correct, especially with the weapon, you'll be able to do incredibly high consistent damage with this character. But the one thing I will say is that he's probably going to be pretty boring to play. Much like the Wanderer, who was very boring, Wriothesley might fall into that category. But hey, he looks pretty cool, so he's going to be pretty cool. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, like and sub, and I'll catch you guys in the next guide.